I messaged someone who had a profile picture of a saxophone on Facebook who said they lived in West Palm. Out of the blue, didn't know them. Messaged them, blah, blah, blah. Back and forth a little bit. I ended up switching gyms at the time. Lo and behold, the random stranger that I was messaging on Facebook
Your high school
was
teacher?
working. No. Yeah. Cue the horror music.
Probably wrote up purple diesel, that shit cute like my lips. But I really let that Cali, cause that shit don't make me trip.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Millennial Mentality Podcast. I am your host, Nick Agnelli, here with my co-host, Peter Price, and our guest today, Bismarck.
Hey.
So, as Bismarck, just came in, he's the first guest we have on our podcast that I truly know nothing about. And I was telling him how exciting that is for me because it's really going to be able to organically, hear his story out for the first time today. I could already tell by, his ambiance and his energy walking in that you're an awesome guy. Pete gave you the best compliments, man, and I'm really excited to kind of get into who you are.
My brother.
Bismarck 2 minutes ago just said how much he loved bunnies. So please
Elaborate
on your love for bunnies.
Oh, well, I mean, they just represent like prosperity, I think, and like fertility.
Okay.
And I've always seen them when I've ever have like a good vibe. And so I think bunnies just represent something good to me. I had a good dream about bunnies years ago.
Okay.
I never forgot. It was great.
Listen.
Did you see a bunny on your way in? What made you bring this up as we were sitting down?
I parked. Lo and behold, a bunny nibbling on
Grass?
foliage. Just like staring at me.
Vibes coming, baby.
Yeah.
That was a great sign.
I
So
love
you were
that.
already comfortable as you pulled up to
I'm
my
like,
house.
yeah, Jupiter, bunnies. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
You're
that's
in
good.
your element.
Well, thank you for coming on today, guys. And thank you to all our listeners, viewers, and subscribers. Our support has been really felt, and we're loving every part of this process. So, Bismarck, diving into who you are, I really, as I was coming in today, I just want you, who is Bismarck? Talk to us about your childhood and your journey, and take your time with it. We got all the time in the world. So who is Bismarck?
Wow. Such a heavy question.
Yeah.
But such a light one. So I would say this book is screaming at me ultimate success, and the word success pops out at me. I would say I've become successful today because of friends that have gotten promoted and bringing me with them.
Okay.
So classic Pete. I mean, I've known Pete for a while, and through him knowing other people, I started off playing the clarinet in middle school, as many people have. But it's just been kind of a journey from there. It's funny because things didn't work out the way I thought they would. I was gonna do music in high school, but I won't name any names or name any high schools. But with that move, at the time, my mom, the band director, gave my mom the creeps. So
Really?
so she wouldn't let me join band, which I was kind of ticked off
The creeps
about.
towards her or the creeps towards you?
I think she picked up a creepy vibe, maybe towards children in general.
Okay,
Should
that's
I-
weird.
Yeah. So I think she didn't want me involved.
Yeah,
But
good call, Mom.
yeah, I'm glad I'm not mentioning any names.
Throw that dirt, dog. Throw it.
Where'd you go to high school?
So,
Let's go.
You don't have to say it anymore.
good moment to drink this. But basically, all that being said, with things not going the way you planned, I'm full of quotes today. Sometimes you have to forego the life you planned to live the life you're meant to live. That's a quote that just...
That's nice.
Bismarck, that is nice.
So I would say,
And what does that mean to you?
it means it's almost better looking back because it's hard to embrace that going forward.
Okay.
That if things didn't go the way you draw it out, that you have to kind of pivot from that. Those are opportunistic moments that you can just choose to be positive and embrace whatever change is happening rather than saying it's not going my way. Let me embrace where it is going. And then, stick to what I love, but just follow that new path as it takes you somewhere.
I love that.
Now, you are absolutely right in everything I'm saying. The point and question I have to that is, to some people, they would say to that, at some point, I got to create my fate, though. You understand what I'm saying? And I think in exactly what you're saying, it gets torn up sometimes because sometimes people will be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? My dad died last year, and I just got let go from work because of COVID, and so." What would you say to someone like that who has kind of just let the road dictate and been happy with it, but now is hitting points in their life like this doesn't make sense anymore? I'm done just living this,
Where do you draw that line?
I would say it's an attitude check at the end of the day. It's perspective on events that happen to you rather than you being mad about the outcome.
Okay.
No matter what, it's going to be good and you like it, or it's going to be bad and terrible and it sucks. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more so having the right attitude going forward.
Okay.
So
it's things are always going to be happening to you, and now it's where you pick that up in the moves you make after the fact, right? It's going to suck. Your hand has been dealt.
Right.
In cards, you're dealt a hand. You can't look at the dealer and say, "Sir, can I have a king instead of this too?" You're dealt a hand, and in the end of the day, as Pete and I always say, like, I can feel bad for you, but that's not going to do anything about your hand. Like, it sucks. It sucks that you have a 12 in blackjack and the deal has a 19, but it's reality, right? So deal with it. And looking for praise or sorrow from your peers isn't going to fix that. So back to your original point in that quote, how did that relate to your life at the time, right? So your mom, had kind of this view on your music teacher, and obviously you loved that at the time. Where did that road take you, that new road?
So, ended up not doing, obviously, band. I played clarinet in church.
Okay.
Then I worked for this church after school was done, high school. Was kind of going to college. And the church had a saxophone, right? And I think it was the pastor's son that gave it to me. And he's like, "Hey, this is the church's. You should try it out." And I'll never forget trying it out. And I kind of worked for them. I did attend, but kind of a mixture of both. But I tried it out, and I just felt this soul connection. It was ridiculous. It was stupid. It's
I like that word, soul connection, because I know what that means, and you know what that means. And people who've felt it before know what that means, you know what I'm saying? And that's a perfect word for it, because it goes to everything. Okay, so keep going.
Yeah. So from there, I got that. Then I ended up, purchasing my own sax. I would show up at parties, house parties, get invited, come hang out, come play, come do this. That's kind of where it started off. And then, the rest kind of just bleeds into some of these people I would play for and hang out with. They became managers at places. They became this and that. And then they're like, "Hey." And then it's just, you have to be, it's not only important to be good at music, but also to be a good person, because it goes hand in hand. So if you're a vibe that people like, it's going to come through your music. Mm-hmm. And I always like to tell people, I think of my favorite thing in my head, like when I play. It doesn't always happen, but like a chocolate cake with chocolate icing and cherries. And it just like, I don't know.
That was so descriptive.
Yeah.
Bismarck, do you think about that every time?
Probably.
It's like you walk into his house and there's just a picture of a chocolate cake.
It's the only thing in my house is just that picture and a couch.
That's so good.
So now you picked up the sax, and in my opinion, the sax came cool to society when it got integrated into like EDM music.
100%.
Like I remember in high school, I never even heard of the sax, and then like with the song, I don't know if it even has saxophone, but like Jubal, that song?
Yeah, that's the exact song I was going to say too.
It's a classic.
And I just would vibe to that literally for hours, like multiple, because it just was a vibe, And then I literally had to look it up, and it was the saxophone. That was in that, and that's when it became cool. Now, you picked it up before that, or was it around the same time that it was getting integrated into music like that?
I would say, it's hard to predict a wave, no matter what wave it is, right? Whether economic, whether social, whether whatever trend. I would say I played at a few spots where they had house music, and, it wasn't as big on the world stage. I think gradually, like, YouTube obviously has given more prominence and more attention to things, right? And it's definitely more popular now. Mm-hmm. But there was a time where I think to some degree, it still is, pretty unique,
Absolutely. Now, from playing it to church to bringing it to your life in what you're doing, obviously you connect it to your soul, but at what point did it connect to your mind and saying, this is it, this is the route I want to take?
I would say it was progressive.
Yeah.
I didn't really jump off a cliff. I kind of slid down the mountain, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Actually, you remind me of a really cool story that I like to tell. After the church point, right?
Yeah.
I was really hungry to get more information about the sax, right? And just find out more about it, like kind of connect with other professionals. I messaged someone who had a profile picture of a saxophone on Facebook who said they lived in West Palm. Out of the blue. Didn't know them. Messaged them. Blah, blah, blah. Back and forth a little bit. I ended up switching gyms at the time. Lo and behold, the random stranger that I was messaging on Facebook
Your high school
was working.
teacher?
No. Yeah. Cue the horror music.
Oh, hey, Bismarck. Where have you been?
I need a spot.
That was good, dude.
So this guy ended up connecting with him, and I asked him, do you know anyone who teaches lessons? He's like, well, I know a guy who repairs saxophones. And long story short, I connect with this guy, and he gives me lessons. And he has a decorated history. This guy was born in 1934, was in the Air Force from 1952 to 1956. He has played the saxophone and like clarinet for over 66 years. He was 81 at the time. Wow. So that's the guy who I was referred to by the gym guy.
Yep.
I had just listening to his stories were insane, right? And then so he taught me from these books, and then finally the last phase, I guess, of our teachings was improvisation. And he said something I'll never forget. He's like, I'm gonna show you how, instead of playing from here, and he pointed and poked me in the chest and said, now you play from here. For an old guy, like legit guy to like, it was just a moment.
He says something, you believe it. Yeah.
So that was a big. I think that culture and helped round out like my experience. His extension in years of experience was translated to me in many ways. So
he's a mentor in many fashions. Now, are you still connected with him today?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
Is he still around?
He unfortunately passed like a couple years ago.
I'm sorry.
Like 2-3 years ago, but it was definitely
hard.
It was difficult.
Yeah.
But it made everything he did say come alive.
Yeah.
You appreciate. Unfortunately, you appreciate it a lot more when they're not around.
So
I hate
true.
to say that, but
So true.
yeah.
Okay, so he basically Mr. Miyagi'd you and showed you the way, the path, right? And
yeah.
And what you said right there just gave me chills. You stop playing with your mind and you start playing with your soul and your heart. Mm-hmm. Now, it's crazy to me because I don't have a musical bone in my body. I don't really, you could say the same too. I don't know if it's something that's truly teachable.
DJ Blue Balls, though.
Yeah,
Don't forget.
I do have a little freestyle talent. But do you believe that being musically talented like that is something you're born with? Is something that, it's kind of magical? Or do you think that it's something that's strictly hard work and dedication?
It's hard to answer it this way, but both.
Okay. So you think the mixture of you always had kind of that jazzy tune to you?
I would say like I've had memories of me like banging on bongos as a kid and always staring at musicians in awe like as a child. And I recognize that in other kids when I see it. Yeah. They just kind of stare. And I feel like 90% chance this person's going to grow up to probably do something or be impacted by music. For me, and this goes back to teachers and teaching, I think if everyone in life got to choose their teachers rather than the subject, well, just pick the personality that you vibe with the most and learn from the most, it'll radically change so much. And for some that may be not going to school, or it may be going to school but only hanging out with that certain person, that certain perspective. Because the wrong teacher can really screw up a lot of people.
1,000%.
And so in saying that, like Mr. Trombone is another great guy. Yeah. I've looked up to him so much over
Mr.
the
Trombone?
years. Yeah, he's a trombonist, and he does like live house music and travels the world.
We booked him at Kachina a couple times as well.
Really?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, when you hang out with people like him, when you rub up against other musicians that influence you in a positive way, that in itself is a spiritual spark. Yeah. So it's a learning experience. You know, if you hang around someone that helps you think less and get in your zone more, that is a teaching moment. Even if you don't say anything, it's like a spiritual connection.
Yep. They understand your ways and what you're trying to do, and it's like there's a separate language in the world, and you guys speak it. You know, you understand that.
To elaborate on Nick's question a little bit, though, do you think for someone like Nick, who says he doesn't have a musical bone in his body, can he be taught to have a musical talent, you think? Or is it something that you do have to have a little bit in your DNA?
I think you can be taught.
You can be taught, right? People ask the same question with tattooing sometimes while I'm tattooing. They'll be like, because I've been an artist my whole life, grew up drawing and painting every day, went to art school. It seems like a natural progression to be where I'm at now, But it also is a balance of a lot of hard work and practice and having the right mentor and someone to show you how to do things the right way. And I feel like with enough practice, obviously someone who has drawing abilities as a background already will have an easier time stepping through that threshold. Yeah. But I think anyone can learn, if you just are taught the right techniques and you put in enough hard work and practice, it might be a harder path compared to that person that's naturally gifted and just picks up an instrument and knows how to rip it. Or can some people, I remember going to art school with kids that were younger than me, but insane artists, and it was just natural. They didn't get taught that anyway. To kind of agree with you, I think that anyone can really acquire any skill with enough determination and practice.
Here's my caveat to that. I think you could do anything in the world if you put your mind to it. I don't think you could do anything great in the world if you put your mind to it, right? So, in my opinion, people who can do something either just have the raw talent or they have the badassery, the hard work, and the grit, right? People who do something and are great with it have the grit and the hard work and the raw talent, right? So I think, as to your original point, it's a bit of both, right? And you'll see someone on American Idol who's been dreaming and singing their entire lives, and they sound like nails on a chalkboard, And it's, they can do it, but are they going to do it great? I don't know.
That's a good point.
So for people who find that you have a passion in the world, but, you think you're not going to be great. Well, okay, maybe you can't monetize it, but you can still do it as a hobby. Right. I mean, you could still do it to make yourself happy. Right. I'm 5'7" on a good day. I'm never going to be in the NBA. But if my passion is shooting a basketball, I can go up to the local rec center and shoot a basketball and still have it as a hobby in your life. Yeah. I'm not going to be making millions, but you could still find outlets to do your passions that aren't monetizable. Right. So with saxophone, you really learned it. You started, as you said, slowly sliding down that hill. At what point did you say, I'm turning this into a business? I'm turning this into my livelihood?
I would say, being gradual is probably the best way to put it. I think maybe after seeing other people, do it full time, doing enough weddings and just there being a repetitive pattern of things, it just kind of takes its own identity, I guess, you see it as a hobby, but then you become more tactical if you're going to use the word business. So I would say with the business mindset, you're just trying to be more efficient, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not just showing up to a certain place anymore. It's not saying yes to everything, but it's saying yes to the right things and recognizing the wrong opportunities. Okay. So when you say I start a business, I think of the tactical nature of it. Okay. I'm not just saying yes to do it because I can. I'm saying yes to with experience, the things that I know will be right for me. I'll perform events I'll perform better at.
Do you strictly just play the saxophone for your living these days, or do you teach it? Do you have other businesses on the side?
It's pretty much just sax. Okay. I read up about investing and whatnot, and I think it's always good for people to do that, especially with COVID, right? Mm-hmm. You need multiple sources of income. If that wasn't a wake up call, I don't know what was.
How much did that affect you?
Oh, greatly. Yeah. I just have good family and good support unfortunately. So that, got me through everything.
But most of your work is working parties and big gigs like that, which were non-existent for almost a year, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So segueing from that a little bit, though, other than the gigs and parties, you record music and release music as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you've got a project coming up?
I do. So I partnered with Cassie Moore, amazing local artist. She's been making amazing headway in the music industry in some amazing ways. So it's called Indie Artist. This is a track that's going to come out soon.
Cool.
Don't have an exact date, but one major deal is she got selected to potentially perform at the Hollywood Bowl in California.
Sick.
So it's this company called Odyssey, and it's called Odyssey Radio, and then they have this event. And so basically, if you get chosen after you get so many votes and you get through all the rounds, you get to open up for essentially 18,000 people. Wow. 2019 opening, the final acts, or the people you would open for rather, Taylor Swift, Lizzo, like huge names. Wow. So this would be a huge break for us and the track and attention.
Yeah. And you'd be ripping it on stage with
Ripping it on stage.
That's sick.
I love to hear. So
yes,
when you hear information like that, like something that's not concrete yet, but it's in the chamber, what's your initial emotion to that? Is it lockdown and double down and everything? Is it nervousness? What is your attitude towards that?
Another great quote. John Coltrane, not my favorite sax player. We can get into that another time. Yeah. But for the purposes of the conversation, someone once said that he practiced like a man with no talent, yet he had all the talent in the world. So I feel both ways about that. Okay. I seem to have a dual answer for your questions.
I love it.
So I do feel like, okay, let's let it happen, but then also not just let it happen, but put the work behind it.
Yeah, right.
What will be, but I also need to push
for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think pushing is really where it's at.
How is your guys' connection musically? The artist is Cassie
Moore. I think person to person, I respect her so much as a businesswoman. Okay. She has her own music label, and she's really very driven. Okay. To not only promote her label but her music, and she produces music as well. Especially, it can be said in a world of mostly male producers, there are very few female producers. So, she's spearheading that. But I like her strategy. I like the way she approaches things. And it's funny how life started. She approached me one day, or messaged me, I think, on Instagram, and said, it'd be cool maybe to do a track with you one day, And I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. But I didn't know how far, the journey would take us. Yeah. And I think, with this contest, it's going to be huge if it goes through.
I think, first off, everything you're saying, Bismarck, is incredible. I love it. I love your quotes. I love your wisdom.
Yeah, thanks.
You're our oldest millennial on the podcast so far. Okay. You definitely are bringing the most wisdom. I'll say that.
Yeah, right.
It's really powerful. What you're saying. Now, to that point, I think it's incredible what you're doing with her. I think we have her on.
Yeah, we just booked a date with her for October, so she'll be on in October. Awesome. Let me ask you something. How'd you come to meet Cassie? Was that because I know Cassie from Kachina as well? Just seeing her on the weekends and stuff. Did you guys come to know each other just from being out and about and crossing paths, or?
It's that out and about, crossing paths, and then the music thing. Mm-hmm. I think there was a point with her where music became more focused. Yeah. And more of a drive and more of a 100% thing for her. Yeah. And then she just really threw out the idea of maybe us putting a track together one day, or me being an icing on the cake on one of her
chocolate cakes.
Chocolate cakes.
With cherries. Yes. Come on. And so how important do you think that is, though, being, still, going out and showing face and being out in the public? Do you see a lot of correlation to that affecting your business and how many gigs you're booking and opportunities that are being presented to you?
100,000%.
Goes hand in hand, right?
Hand in hand.
Yeah, I agree.
I think what I was going to get into there was so many people pray to either God or ask the universe or whoever your vice whatever your is, And they always ask for a helping hand or give me something or come on. And sometimes they expect that to show up at their front door in a box and with a note on it telling the 10 steps to do.
Good.
But sometimes it could come in the form of an Instagram DM. It could come in the form of bumping into someone and shaking their hand and talking to them. It could come in the form of anything that will just cross your eyes. That's one thing that, we expect everything to come in this pristine what to-do list, and it's not going to be like that. So when you're asking the universe or God or whatever it is for help or a hand or something, check yourself in everything you're doing throughout that day, because a lot of times you'll blink your eye and an opportunity will pass you. Or someone who you could have been nice to but you were rude to will pass you. Yep. That energy you're putting out of the world will go right by you. Yeah. So don't look past those things. Pete and I, and now you, are saying collectively almost every episode, it's the energy you bring into the world, and like you said, it's that positive atmosphere you have around yourself, because people will pick up on that, and you might have met her once or twice or 3 times out, but she liked your energy, she liked what you brought to the stage, and now you could be playing in front of 18,000 people in Audible.
And your reputation does a lot for you too. Maybe she never even, and this is a hypothetical scenario, but maybe she never even heard your music, but when she saw you at it, Kachina, you're the fucking man there. Everyone knows you, everyone loves you. And when everyone is attracted to you and everyone loves the energy that you bring, it almost verifies your abilities right there, Because if you were a fraud or you weren't good at what you said you do, people wouldn't be gravitating towards you the way they do, So I think your reputation and, the aura that you put out gets you really far also, And it sort of verifies your abilities without people even having to see it.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
That was amazing.
Nice, man. No, I think... Listen, I think anyone who does music for a living, and like we said on our second podcast we released it, Pete had a thought of the week, and it was how music brings you to a place. Music brings you to a headspace, or it brings you to a memory, or it brings you love or chills or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And I think to be able to transfer that energy onto someone and automatically change their day, we listen to
a whole room of people.
And what a feeling that must be in your hands when you're looking at a crowd, right? Tell us about that. When you just see people and they light up.
So the cool part about that is it's funny. It's like when you light them up, they light you back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's almost like I'm feeding myself, but I'm eating by first feeding someone else.
Okay.
Right, so it's kind of like
so they're feed off
them, feeding off.
Yeah, I give them chocolate cake, and they bake one right back, and there's this whole thing going on. It's like a movie going on in my head. Oh man, this tastes great.
This tastes great.
This sub conversation and this whole sub movie going on in my. But yeah, I think it's
It's full circle when they give you the energy back. Now, we've talked a lot about the saxophone. Give me kind of the background of your personal life and how you were raised and everything that goes behind making Bismarck.
Wow. I grew up playing, I don't know why I feel I went straight for baseball. I played baseball growing up as a kid. That was great. Mm-hmm. Some team sports. Went to middle school, elementary school, high school.
All in South Florida down here?
South Florida, yeah. I don't know. I've had different friends throughout the years. I've had more best friends as a little kid, and I had a few phases of best friends. I don't know. Just it's such a big question.
I'll break it down for you. How was your let's say family life? How was your family life in being raised?
Good. Yeah. So mom and dad. I didn't have any brothers growing up. Yeah. So mom and dad separated, and I had a brother from a different marriage, my father, and he's 9 years old now, which is cool to have a little brother. Yeah. So that's redefined the last couple of years, the last 10 years, which is pretty cool. But being an only child, I think, it makes you produce a certain energy because you have to kind of produce your friends. If you're not born with brothers and sisters, there's no one to hang out with at night. Mm-hmm. So, if you're not born with brothers and sisters, there's no one to hang out with at night. So I think it forces you to be more maybe forward and outgoing with developing relationships. Mm-hmm.
Similar to what Heath said on the last episode, because he was an only child for a while, he sort of, gravitated towards those relationships with his friends, and that's why everyone looked at him like a big brother,
Right.
you sort of seek that out elsewhere.
Yeah.
And
were your parents into music at all? Is that
yeah.
something you picked up from them, or?
Maybe I picked it up from my mom. Yeah. My mom's a little more spacey than my dad. My dad's a little bit more analytical.
Yeah.
But none of them are musically inclined at all. Yeah.
Now, when you got done with high school, did you go to a college or did you go right into the work field? What was that transition like?
So at the time, I was working for a bank. It was like as a bank teller. Mm-hmm. And then I was doing music. But then I was also working with this church. So I had devoted all my time to that, and I got a degree through that church. So that's like my degree, if you will. And
you got a degree through the church?
Like you're a pastor?
No, not like that. But just it basically, I was helping run their TV program and helping with music and a bunch of other things, and those were like credit hours within their system. So
what is like your degree in?
It's technically it's like a bachelor's of business in ministry, if you will. But there's a lot of like other, I guess, facets that come with it, you know. So yeah, that happened. But I guess you could say the music kind of just caught fire with. It's hard to describe when. Mm-hmm. You can look back and say it got more intense and busier, you know. Wedding. Yeah.
How long have you been full-time saxophoning for?
2013, 14.
Okay, so you've been doing it for a hot minute. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's basically, with the exception of COVID, been pretty consistent the entire time through. Mm-hmm. Now, bringing back full circle to your original comment of the entire podcast, how did you view COVID? Right, you were talking about taking every opportunity and having to go with it. That was a pretty bad opportunity, you know, or bad thing to happen to a lot of people in your industry and parallel industries as well. How did you view that, and how did you kind of roll with those punches?
I would say, first of all, disbelief. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. To see businesses shut down. Yeah. It didn't seem real. Yeah. It was something else. Like driving down I-95, 3 p.m. on a Tuesday.
And no traffic.
And there's no cars.
Yeah.
Like, it was just completely surreal.
Did you have anxiety that came with that, or?
So oddly enough, leading up to COVID, I was working so much that I needed some sort of break. Okay. Yeah. But I didn't expect to come like this. Yeah. Like, I want some time off. Yeah. But like this, you know? It for the first couple months, it was a rest. But, like, when music is, like, missing, you're not doing it, when you're not, like, vibing off of other people, it can take a toll on you.
Become depressed very fast. Yeah. You know? For a lot of people with our type of personalities, we need human energy in our lives.
Right, yeah.
You know?
And what was your schedule, your work life like prior to COVID? Like, how many days a week are you playing the sax?
Oh, I had at least 3 to 4 gigs a week. Yeah. But, you know, consistent, good quality ones. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even call it consistent. It's just like you get booked, and then, you know, time catches up for those dates to come true. Right. And it's just a very busy time. Yeah. So it was just like weddings. It was like corporate stuff. It was like Hilton. It was just I could name it just so many different places. Mm-hmm. It was just all firing at once.
And it was wearing you out?
I would say so, yeah. Because,
it wasn't sustainable at that pace.
Right. I mean, it's also learning to take a break from things, like giving yourself a break to restore, like, because you get burnt out.
Right, 100%.
And then it's just like you don't feel you're giving off creative energy. Exactly. It's like you have to rest that. It's like
I don't care what it is, whether a person or a career or a passion or a hobby. If you do it too much or you're around that person too much, you're gonna start getting burnt out and annoyed from it. Period. You have to have yourself and give yourself time to bounce back, to recover mentally and or physically, to bring your best self. Because I'd rather be going at 100% 4 days a week than 60% 7 days a week and just saying I'm busy to be saying I'm busy.
Right.
You know, busy and productive are two way different things.
I just had the same conversation with a client when I was tattooing him the other day, or a similar conversation, I should say, because I'm setting up this streaming room in my house now, right? And it's something I'm super stoked about and having a lot of fun with. And it's not like I've got a ton of free time. I was even telling you, like, I really only play video games for maybe like an hour, hour and a half at the end of the day with Heath, you know? But this gives me like another passion project, similar to what this podcast does, you know? Like I schedule myself 7 days a week for tattoos, or at least I did up until we started doing this podcast. And now this is like my one day off, you know? I'm like, all right, I guess I'm still kind of working, you know, but this is something I enjoy doing. And it switches it up. So like every day doesn't feel like Groundhog Day, you know, where you wake up, go to work, go through the motions, come home, which I feel like a lot of people get stuck in that route, especially coming from where I was coming from in the restaurant world. That's like almost what you know you're signing up for when you get that job. You know, you want to be a bartender. It sounds like a dream job because you make $500 cash a night. Yeah. But you like sell your soul to that industry and you become a vampire that comes home at 5 a.m. every night. You sleep until your next shift and then you just do that over and over again. And before you know it, like 6 years have gone by, you know, and you're in the same spot. So it's really important, I think, to have like those passion projects and things that kind of switch up that everyday routine so you don't get burnt out. Because I'm even going through it now where I schedule myself every day to tattoo, and don't get it twisted for a second. I love tattooing. I love my career now, and I'm super grateful that I'm able to make money doing something that I love. But even going through a few months spree where I was doing 2-3 appointments a day, all day long, you know, back to back, and as fun as it is and as much as I love doing it, it still burns you out, you know, and all of a sudden you feel that creative flow sort of slipping, and it becomes like now you're going through the motions, or you're just, you know, you're banging things out to get them done and trying to be efficient, when I'm not in the business of efficiency, you know, I'm in a creative business. And I think having something to switch up that routine and like it not be going through the same motions every single day is important to keep you from getting to that point, you know, and obviously not overworking yourself and knowing, you know, how much of a workload you can handle, but also having something that you really enjoy doing outside of that to switch up that routine. As much as I love a routine, I think too much of a structure can also lead to that burnout. You know, you need a little freedom.
And I think that when people flex the word "I'm busy," like you ask people, "Hey, how you been?" "Oh, such a generic answer. Oh, I'm busy, man. Just been busy, right?" To me, that's not a flex. To me, like, you know, if you got 18 things on your plate and you're doing like 4 of them actually, and you're actually caring about 4, like, so be careful when you're just trying to either put more shit on your plate or take more stuff on just to say, "Oh, I'm busy." Well, that doesn't mean shit, you know? If you're not actually putting anything into any of the things that you're doing, being busy is just going to get you nowhere, you know?
And that doesn't sound enjoyable either, you know? Busy isn't necessarily an adjective that sounds like you love your life, you know? Kind of like we were saying on a previous podcast, if you're doing the things you're doing just so you can put entrepreneur in your bio, you're doing it for the wrong reason. The goal should be not to be busy, you know? Like, it should be to have freedom and be loving your life.
Exactly.
And yes, obviously, you're going to have to be busy for a really long time to get to that point. But like you're saying, busy isn't the flex. The flex is freedom. Yeah. Once you can live and do whatever you want, like I love about my life now is I get to make my own schedule. When it's my mom's birthday, I can be there for that if I need to be. You know, where for the previous years of being in the restaurant business, holidays don't exist there. You know, those are your busiest days of the year. You're working them. You know, like it's freedom is the flex. Yeah. Busy is not a flex.
And getting back to your point is, the more you progress into your career, you start picking and popping jobs. Now you start selecting pieces of art, I'll say, for both of your careers that you want to do, right?
You know your worth.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not dictated by the market or by the money. You're dictated by the passion and by the project, right? So now you're doing things in your creative lane that you want to do. And I think that's when masterpieces are truly created, right? When you're now putting pieces of the puzzle together and dictating what that, you know, that grand picture is going to be in your life, that's when things really, really come together. And that's what I hear when you talk about your song coming up. Yeah. And like, because both of you seem to be in that great place, and that's when the atomic bombs are made. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really excited for that.
I like that.
Now, you mentioned it a snippet earlier. Who is your favorite artist? And I'm going to break that into two sections. Who's your favorite saxophonist? And who's your favorite artist, like someone that everyone in the world would know?
Saxophonist. Dexter Gordon.
Okay.
Artist. That one is a question. Artist. I'll throw it out there. I'll say Yanni. Not many people know who that is.
I do not.
Who?
Okay, his name is Yanni, Yanni.
Okay.
He had.
I think I know one song. I've seen that name before.
So, you know what? You to back to your question though. Someone that everybody knows.
Yeah.
That's not really someone everybody would know. But it was the first artist that came to my head.
Bad Bunny.
One or two songs.
Yeah.
Like,
All right, so let's say you walk into Kachina on Saturday night. Alex Gregory is up in the booth, and you get one request, and he's not going to be mad that you requested it. What are you requesting?
Dang it. I want to say Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, but honest, just that one song.
It does slap in Kachina.
It slaps.
Club cannons all at the same time. It's a magical moment.
Oh, God. It's so funny. I think when you say artists, I think of one-off songs. To say one person, I don't know, man. But I will say this, to kind of revert to what I did say earlier. When I listened to Dexter Gordon in the 60s, I always think about Cheesecake.
Okay.
He plays so smoothly. It's just, and I love Cheesecake.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Bismarck and it's cakes.
I feel like I fucked up getting Sierra Chicks before we got this. I should have got a cake.
Yeah, man. It's just something about it. It's
smooth, creamy. With a little bit of crust on the bottom.
yeah, lime flavored. I don't know. Oh, yeah, man. Just enough crust. That's right.
Your character, Bismarck. Okay, I want to do 3 hot take questions for you. Okay, so off the rip, you gotta answer them. And the first one's pretty intense, right? What's your top 3 cereals? Starting at 3, down to 2
This
to 1.
one's pretty intense.
God, I can't even think of cereals. That's bad.
Not a cereal guy?
Cereal guy.
Worst to best?
No. So 3, 2, 1. Give me your
3,
top
2,
3.
1. Fruit Loops.
Okay.
Frosted Flakes.
Okay.
Number 1.
You're missing a big one.
You're missing a big one.
God, I don't know, man.
CTC?
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Honey Nut Cheerios?
Oh my
Bismarck?
gosh. Okay,
Frost.
so I need to ask another question now just after that answer. Are you not a breakfast guy or what?
I haven't had cereal in the longest time.
Okay.
You put me on the spot.
Fair.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
It's
We
really
just-
I don't know if I
gonna-
believe that.
I'm in the hot seat. It's really the hot
Gonna
seat.
walk right by CTC?
Yeah, dude.
Captain
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, yeah. But Captain Crunch should be on the list too. That one's fucking up there. Crunch Berries? What?
Cinnamon Toast sounds awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2. Where is your happiest place in the world?
Nantucket.
Really?
It's
Tell me about that.
So I got to visit there with a band at the
Okay.
time. It's just this very quiet, chill city. It's a super vibe.
It's a parallel to your personality.
I can be.
It's a
It's a
super
super
vibe.
vibe. Like people just chill. I mean, it's like 3
What
miles.
state is that?
Nantucket is like
New York, right?
It's in the Cape?
it's near the Cape.
Yeah.
It's the property of Boston, so it's like
Okay.
it's technically Boston.
Okay.
Massachusetts rather. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 3 miles wide, 14
Is
miles
Montauk that as well, or is Montauk New York?
Montauk's New
Montauk's,
York.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had just amazing memories there.
How many times have you been there? A lot?
3 or 4.
Okay.
Mhm.
That was a good answer. That was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't think about that for more than a second.
No, that's just the vibe all around.
Can I throw a random question out here?
Hit.
And this is for both of you guys because I'm just curious. I was just thinking about this on the way over here. And was thinking about it like a week ago, so I realized we need to talk about it. What's your take on, do you give money to homeless people when you see them on the side of the road with the sign? Or at the gas station when they come up to you as you're pumping gas? What's your opinion on that?
I'll let you go.
I don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Is there a reason or any thought behind it?
I was once poisoned, I guess you could say, by someone else saying that.
I have the same story, Bismarck. That's why I asked.
Yeah, so I remember going the same way. Like someone, I don't know. At some point, I heard someone else give their opinion about that, and it changed the way I thought about it. And that, like, you know, it's really could just go towards a drug, and you're also kind of enabling.
Right.
Either way, I mean, the statistics of someone that's going to take that and save that and do the right things with it are very slim.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
my answer is I go through seasons with it, right? So to dive a little bit deep into it, because I guess we have the time. When I was 21, I started a nonprofit in Orlando for homeless.
That's right. I remember that now.
I had an internship downtown at the time, and every lunch, it was my first really like downtown setting. And Orlando is a huge hotspot for homeless because it's warm year round. A lot of homeless have problems up north because of the winters and whatnot. So on the weekends, you know, when I'd go there downtown at night, you know, they clean up all the streets. There's cops out, so all the homeless disperse. But during the week, in the morning times, when there's just business people around, it's just homeless throughout the street.
Right.
So I one day on my walk to lunch, I stopped and I had a half an hour conversation with the homeless dude. Completely didn't go to lunch and just talked to him about life. And it really got to me. And it was a gentleman who I really felt like he was seeking help. Like he just didn't have that sibling or that mother or father figure, you know, to really support him. And that's what hurts my heart a lot of the times is a lot of the times we can look at homeless and say, well, fuck it, like, you know, they did it to themselves. But a lot of times people don't realize that if we didn't have support in our lives, we would have been in the exact same position, right? Now, at the end of the day, you have to help yourself. But either a word of wisdom or a few $1,000s or whatever it is that people look past in their life because they're fortunate and a lot of people don't have, could put you on your ass in that position. So I did that. I became a 501c3 in the state of Florida. It was all self-funded. I put about $4 or $5 grand into it. And I had a video made about it. And what really killed me and hurt my heart is 99% of the time when I was picking up these guys, they were high on drugs. Whether it be crack cocaine or whatever they can get their hands on, really. And a part of me understands it because if you're living on the streets 24/7, you want to become numb. Yeah. Right? I know my worst days, and those days I either just want to get drunk or high or something just to kind of numb whatever is in my brain. Now imagine if that was your life in a nutshell, right? You need and you fixate on getting that just that little hair of happiness. And that really crushed my soul. I gave one of them a bike to be able to ride to a job. The next day, the bike was sold and lost. Or they said they lost it, but I know they sold it. Yeah. So I put a lot of time, money, and effort into it, and I just felt... Now, it is a philanthropy that I want to get back to later in life. Hopefully, if I have a successful business, I really do want to help out the homeless. Either portable showers or something like that to really just help them. Yeah. But for me, at that time in my life, when I was just self-funded 21-year-old kid trying to help the homeless and innocent in that way... It's unfortunate because it skewed my opinion of it because I was really trying to genuinely help these people. And I feel like they weren't giving me that little bit to at least help themselves and get off that. So to answer your question, I go through seasons with it. There'll be a 6-month period where every time I'll see one, I'll give them a few bucks or anything I have and try to give them a word of wisdom. And there'll be times where I'm like, you know what? I can't do anything for you. You know what I'm saying? And I know I'm going to give you a few bucks and you're going to save up $10 and then go buy a dime bag from your homie on the corner. So, it's tough. What I'm just saying is, instead of roasting those people, put it into perspective that, all of us aren't as fortunate as others. Yeah. But yeah, good question.
I've got 2 different reasons why I asked the question because I have 2 different opinions myself. One, I watched a documentary years ago about how there's like this big panhandling scam and that there's a lot of panhandlers that you see that aren't even actually homeless and have a sign on the side of the road and make like $200 a day doing that, and then will walk over to the gas station and hop in their car and drive home, you know? So once I saw that, my mind was blown, that holy shit, this whole thing was fugazi, which obviously that's only a percentage, There's certainly real homeless people out there. I'm not saying they're all in that situation. But that opened my eyes a little bit to like, oh shit, was I getting finessed every time I gave someone a buck? But also... it also wasn't something I experienced as a kid because I grew up in Palm Beach Gardens, Jupiter, up this way, where there are almost no homeless people. Like, you go to a gas station, you don't see them on the road, you don't see people with signs. But when I moved to West Palm in high school, all of a sudden they're everywhere. Every gas station you go to, someone's slump outside asking you for $1 as you walk in. And some gas stations you go to, they'll walk right up to you and be like, hey, man, like, you got anything for me? Can you help? And when I first moved to West Palm, I was so naive to it and not used to it that I'd give people money all the time. And then, I started to recognize it was happening, like, every day. And a 19-year-old kid can only afford that for so long. Yeah. But at this time, I drove a motorcycle. I pulled up to the gas station right across from where my dad stayed. And this dude is like, damn, bro, that's a nice bike. I fuck with that. Blah, blah, blah. He's, like, trying to, like, chop it up with me a little bit. Instead of just, the usual come right up, you got $1 for me. So I chopped it up with him back. I'm talking to him about the bike, he just got nothing but nice things to say. And then eventually he hits me with, listen, man, here's the deal. My van is just on the other side of the overpass. I'm out of gas. My wife and 2 kids are in the van. I just got to get us to St. Augustine. I just need some gas money so I can fill up the van and get us to St. Augustine. Can you help out? And I was like, damn, dude. He had a whole story and everything, So I think I gave him $5 or something. Thought nothing of it. Went about my day. Happy to help him out, Maybe like 2 weeks go by, I go back to the same gas station.
Homeboy's chilling.
He goes, hey, man, damn, that's a nice motorcycle.
No.
I'm like, yeah, bro, I know you like this motorcycle. We talked about it last week. You don't remember that? I see you're not in St. Augustine. And he's like, oh, yeah, listen, my van's just on the other side of the overpass. My wife and kids are in there, and I just need a little bit of gas. And he hit me with the exact same spiel, and I'm like, bro, you don't remember me? Like, we just did this a week ago. And then I realized I got finessed, And that sort of ruined it for me after that, I had a hard time believing anyone in their story. And I almost have more respect for the guy with the sign that says, need beer and drugs, I'd rather give that guy my $5 because at least he's being real with me, And maybe I am enabling, but that's what the guy wants that day, And if I don't know. Yeah. But I also worked with a girl named Jennifer when I was working for Southern Wine and Spirits, and that job, we're driving around town all day, going from account to account to account, and she worked in, like, the Lake Worth, West Palm area, where there's plenty of homeless people everywhere, and I thought this was, like, the best answer to that, because I think she went through, like, kind of the same thing, where she's seeing homeless people everywhere, she feels bad, she wants to help, but she knows giving them money isn't really the answer. So she had probably like 25 little baggies, goodie bags with like granola bars, little water bottle, fucking deodorant stick, like just little travel shit. And when she'd see someone on the side of the road that's asking for help, she'd give that to them.
It's amazing.
Where, now they can like have some hygiene for the day, eat something, have some water. And it's not like she's enabling them to do anything bad with it. And it's, only costing her a couple bucks to put together.
That's smart.
So I felt like that was such a great answer. And, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was really like a hypothetical question I'm asking, but like I think that's probably the best way to go about it, what Jennifer's doing, rather than giving $1 here or there. I mean, if you can.
I think a lot of people are on the same page as us, though. We don't really know what the answer is,
right.
And
100%.
There's no really easy way to kind of answer that question. Okay, I have a little question and another last one. How did the Pilgrims put out fires? I thought about this the other day, right? So say you have a straw house in 1750, right? In Nantucket, right? And you're cooking some pasta, and a fire starts. Do you literally say, oh, fuck, this is toast?
You throw the pasta water on it.
No, you bullshit, Pete. And you think it's going to put the whole house down? A fire starts in your hut, and you ain't got no firemen.
Yeah.
It's just done.
Yeah, probably.
So you just write it off? Could you imagine that? A little fire, and you're like, fuck it. Or I wonder if they had a bucket there, just like the fire bucket.
Like a fire extinguisher, but it was just a bucket of water hanging on the wall.
I know. That's what shit goes through my head, right?
Yeah, you're probably just fucked, I guess.
I had written down in my notes, Pilgrims, fire, question mark.
I saw that one, the podcast notes. I was wondering.
All right, last question for you, Bismarck. What is your worst piece of advice you've ever gotten and the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, man. Wow. I always think about the best. What's the worst piece of advice? I hate to really be such a long pause here. Can I start with the best?
Perfect.
Best, which you actually mentioned, you touched on it earlier. Okay. One of the best saxophone players I've ever heard live said to me, I asked him, like, what's some good advice on becoming better at saxophone? He said, find a hobby. And that really spoke volumes to me, because I guess that if you focus so much on one thing, a hobby helps you to kind of remove yourself from what you're so focused on. And then, that removal is good. Like a break is good, right? And it helps you become refreshed when you go back to it. So he's like, do something you like to do completely different than music, Worst piece of advice. God, man.
It's a tough one.
Worst piece of advice.
And for all of our guests coming on and watching this, I don't know if you got the pattern yet. I'm going to ask this question to everyone that comes on. So, before you come on, think about the worst piece of advice you ever got, and just kind of a little tidbit there.
I've had a lot of people say I should play that George Michael song a lot, and I think that's actually the worst advice. Because it's the last thing I probably want to play.
Yeah.
And the funny part is like you'll be in the middle of a crowd and some music is actually going on, and someone will, usually drunk, come to me and say, "Hey, can you just play that one George Michael song?" It's like, no, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing right now and just play the George Michael. Like, would you do that during a speech?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, tell someone to stop and just say something completely
Quote
different.
that shit Abraham Lincoln said that one time.
Hey,
that shit was
remember that one?
fire.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: is like your gigs? Is it similar like being a DJ where like they hate it kind of when the guests are coming up and interrupting their set to interject their own songs that they want or their own requests?
It's only when that's packaged in a complete obnoxiousness.
Yeah, right.
That's it. I mean, I don't mind people saying, "Hey, play this, play that,"
Right.
but incessantly like slapping me.
There's a respectful way to do it.
Let me.
Yeah.
I've had some funny things happen.
Crazy stories.
Hey, let me play your sax.
Oh.
I really want to find a picture of you somewhere at Kachina standing on, like, in between the booths, that little window area.
God.
I know, I have a mental picture in my head of
If
you
we
just
have one,
ripping
yeah.
the sax in that little window.
Dude.
But if someone has a picture out there, I might have to reach out to Connor. Someone has a picture of Bismarck at Kachina ripping the sax, please send it to us so we can throw it on the screen.
You get down, Bismarck? I got to see you live. Man.
Rips it, bro.
Really?
Yeah, it's a vibe, man.
Next time we have Bismarck on, we told him you got to bring the sax and
Yeah.
hit us with a freestyle.
Yes.
Do the ladies love a saxophone player?
They don't hate it.
Yeah, I gotta tell
They're
him.
not mad.
So I sent Nick your Instagram profile when I was first talking to you about coming on, and Nick checked you out, I'm assuming, and he writes me back. He goes, "Bro, this guy Bismarck fucks."
So
That
true.
sums it up right there. I feel like
From the quotes to everything, the bunnies, the chocolate
Bismarck
cakes.
fucks, man.
Bismarck is great. Now, Bismarck, where could they find you? Please tell, what's your socials, and if they are looking for anyone local, looking for a wedding, or you have a party coming up, a bridal shower, whatever it is, how can they get a hold of you?
At Bismarck Sax on Instagram.
Spell that just so people.
BISMARCKSAX at Bismarck Sax. And I respond very quickly to DMs.
Okay.
Believe it or not, a lot of wedding inquiries from DMs. Yeah, I would say Instagram is my number one. I chose to hyper-focus on one social media instead of spreading out too much.
Yeah.
I do Facebook as well, but Instagram is my number one.
And the last thing I want to leave on is if there's someone out there who's kind of on the cusp of wanting to do something in the musical field, what would you say to them to kind of be a first step into that?
Be the right person. Your personality and who you are carries you a lot farther than you think your talent will. Be good to people and don't ever waste or experience a relationship, right? Whether or not you think someone's important or not important. I've scored so many gigs from knowing like dishwashers, all right? From knowing the people that you don't think would do anything for you, I think your character's judged by how you treat people that can't do anything for you, right? Yeah. So I would say be the right person and be kind, be smart, and if life is not always green, and if you're ever tempted to be mad, try to control that. And even if you're feeling it on the inside, smile as hard as it is and do what's,
The right thing to do.
Do the right thing, yeah. That's what I
Get a hobby.
And
Get a hobby, yeah.
And chocolate cake.
Eat some chocolate cake.
Eat some chocolate.
All right, guys, that was Bismarck. Bismarck, you have an incredible story, man.
Yeah,
and guys, please, if you have any function or celebrating anything, and you want just more than anything an amazing person to come out, please hit up Bismarck. He's just a ball of love. Bismarck, thank you so much for coming on, man. Thank you for watching and viewing and listening, guys. If you're not subscribed, please do. And please share this to all your friends and family. We'd appreciate it. We've loved all the support we've gotten so far. Until next time, guys. Peace.